Hello everyone, welcome back. Before we head out to the cliff cabin, there's something I need to do. There's a girl I play hockey with, and she asked me if I had any wood cookies that I could give her. She's a teacher and she wanted to make a clock or something like that for her students. And she was looking for something 2 to 3 feet in diameter, which is pretty big. And I was like, geez, I don't think I have anything that big. I don't have a tree that big. But then I remembered when I cut down that big dead standing Douglas fir last summer, I think I could probably get something from the stump. So let's go do that. Why I didn't think to bring a shovel is beyond me. I might have to go back and get a shovel. Look who followed me down. Look who followed me back down. The little barking bub. Hi. Hi. So I had Leroy at the vet yesterday to have him assessed for he has a really high respiratory rate when he's resting. It's kind of weird. You'd think a dog would show signs of sort of respiratory distress when they're exercising, and he doesn't. But when he's trying to sleep and rest, like after we go skiing or walking, his resps are really high. Sometimes, like a couple days ago, I counted them 100 a minute. I took him to the vet yesterday and he has lung disease, like he has restrictive lung disease, which probably he's had for some time. He probably came to us. Well, he would have come to us like that. So wherever he was living in Tennessee, whatever he was exposed to, so environmental or something, but his lungs are really patchy with fluid in them. So he has a hard time oxygenating at rest. So anyway, we kind of got like a medication for him. Like Lasix is just a water to help take the water out of the body, to give him every once in a while, like if he needs it. Like after he exercises, he gets like this intense tachypnea, which is a high resp rate. But otherwise, there's really nothing we can do. We just have to manage it the best that we can for him. Okay, bud? Hey. Hi, sweetie. I don't want to be disappointed in that news because, we get these dogs as seniors, as old dogs with health problems, and that's the reason why we want to take them, is to try to give them a really good last few years of their life, for however long that is. So that's the goal for Mr. Leroy. Idea to get that a bit better. So if anyone remembers, earlier on in the winter we had these, there were so many trees that came down. There's this one Douglas fir, and then there's this one, which is an aspen. It's not as big, but I might take one from there too. I don't know if anyone, remember the little door that I made for the shed on the cliff? The little wood cookies, the small ones? Of all of the varieties of species of wood that I used for those little rounds, I did use aspen in there, and aspen was one of the ones. I think there was a fir one that didn't split also, that didn't check. The aspen rounds didn't check, like they didn't crack like I actually thought they would. So I think this would be a good experiment to even see if I cut it into a cookie, if it will crack. I mean, it depends on how thick it is too, but I found that interesting because aspen is so full of water, but I guess it really depends on the fibers of the wood and how they dry. We made it. It's 1:30, so I'm getting out here a lot, well, not a lot later, but kind of later than I normally do. But I'm here nonetheless. I stopped and got myself not one bag of ketchup chips, but two. This President's Choice brand is different than the Old Dutch. Old Dutch is my favorite, you guys know that. But these ones they were just, I don't know, I saw them and I wanted to grab them too. I've had them before, they're not too bad. But the Old Dutch is by far my favorite. I was wondering if I wouldn't be able to start working on the siding for this side and the two sides that I have left to do. But physically, I don't have it in me today. My hip is really sore today. And it's also really windy out. Mind you, I think no matter what I do, I'm gonna have to go outside to do cutting. So I'm gonna have to go outside anyway. But the other thing that I was gonna work on is the kitchen. And I still don't feel like I have it together of what I want to do. Honestly, the kitchen and these windows, these 2x4 studs are really throwing me for a loop, especially in the kitchen. I have to try to figure out a way to either like blend them or cover them, and I want it to just look as seamless as possible. Minimally visually distracting, I guess would be the words. So it's just been a bit of a struggle for me to figure out, but I think I'm just gonna have to do it. So I've kind of already started preparing, and I'm gonna have to just kind of play around with the materials. The tiles, the kitchen tiles that I had, those white tiles, I question if I even am going to use them in this space, simply because of the dynamic of the area that I have to work with. I think the herringbone pattern in those white tiles is what looks the best, and trying to execute the herringbone, yeah, it's possible. I didn't have enough to do all the tiles, right? So to cover it all, so I have to break it up somehow. So I have probably like 4 different ideas of how to break up the space, like the backsplash in the kitchen, the wall, and all of that. And yeah, I just have to kind of pick one of the ideas that I think is gonna look the best. You don't want to have too many ideas because I won't get anything done. I didn't want the corner to be, like, I want the corner underneath the loft to be bright. So it's either going to be painted white wood or it's going to be the white wallpaper. The tricky part is just trying to figure out what's going to look the best in how I try to cover up the 2x4s and trim out the window at the same time. Herringbone. Looks really cool. The problem is, for this section, I only need 7.5 inches. And so how do I decide how to make that look good in that small of a space? Or option 3, I could do the wood paneling and then just have the painted wood boards rather than the wallpaper. That's the third option. I think I have a plan. It's coming together, what I need to do. I have a little bit of flexibility, I guess you could say, with this idea. So let's do it. take this counter out and cut off this little piece. It's in the way, right in the way. It was also suggested to me by my dear friend Kurt that I trim this. I have this 45-degree angle on here because I had tried to make that waterfall counter. But if I cut just a little bit off of it and give it a little, it'll just make it look a little bit nicer. Some of you were curious where the meadow is in relation to the cliff. And so I've mentioned it before, but just before I go out, because it's windy, in case the sound isn't good. The trees that you see down there that have sun on them, that's where the meadow is. And it's like 4 p.m., I think. And kind of where I was, I actually don't even really know, but I think it's about where my finger is pointed. Somewhere in there. So you can see just how much sun that location gets compared to where we're at. To be honest, I think that filling this in with the floorboards is going to look the best, because it's going to match the bottom and it's just going to look the cleanest. So I think that's what I'm going to end up doing. I'm hitting a screw. I'm hitting metal. Oh. Yes, I was hitting metal. I was hitting that screw. It's 5 past 5 and there's still sun at the meadow. Kind of getting to a few details that are more complicated. I'm just tying these parts in. But I think what I need to do It's like one step at a time. What I was going to do here was a shelf. That's kind of why that sticks out like that. I could lower it down depending on how thick the wood is for the shelf. So I just rummaged through. Sun's gone. I don't know what time it is, 6:30 maybe. Anyway, I just rummaged through my pile, and there is the siding. This is the siding material. But this is a piece that's too thick to be used for anything, and I was thinking I could use it as a shelf. It's one idea. Anyway, I think I'll cut it to length and see what it's going to look like. Something like this. Maybe I have to cut that a little bit more, but anyway, problem with this paper. So this is like one of the ideas, right? The problem is that there's always going to have to be a seam I'm going to have to line up, which actually on the tray tables, the TV tray tables, I put the paper sideways so that I didn't have to have a seam, even though it, like the pattern is this way. So maybe. Dun, da, da, da. Okay. It's perfect. There. Put a wider lens on. Wider angle lens. Oh, it's almost time to get my fat girl pants on. 10 after 7. Finished eating. I think what I'm going to do is clean up outside a little bit and then paint. Because at bare minimum, the boards will look best white. That corner is dark. So I wasn't sure if I needed to paint when I painted before. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And that's probably all I'll get done for today. Good morning. Last night, I spent quite a bit of time looking in this space, trying to figure out what to do, because I don't think I really have, I'm worried I don't have, this is where I was going to start the rest of the wood. I don't think I have enough to do it like that. So I could either drop it down, drop the shelf down to like here, and then carry on with the wood. Or do I leave it as is? I do have to finish the flooring. And I was gonna try to trim out the window, like I said, and maybe the door with the fir. But I don't have enough to do everything with that same fir. So I have 2 long boards left. And then I do think I can get my hands on some more from a friend of mine. It is fir flooring. I just don't know how similar to this it looks. So that makes me wonder, should I leave it like this? Or is this maybe a place where now the herringbone, I could do the herringbone with the tiles? That would save me the wood. When I tested it out, the herringbones, yeah, that might actually look pretty good. They didn't line up well, the pattern, but maybe that's worth trying. I would probably cut it out. I would probably cut out a piece of plywood to fit there and then put the tiles on the plywood. Actually a little bit too big, so may as well try it. I've had this black paint sitting here since last year. This is what the window casings are, and for what it's worth, I thought I would paint this black. So that the gaps, if there are any, I don't know what it's going to look like when it's on the tiles. It's very fitting. This one piece of plywood was actually the counter piece of plywood that I had for a while. All right, it's pretty dry. 20 minutes later. I think tiling, I've never really tiled before, to be honest. You're supposed to start in the center, I think. That is kind of the gist of it. And then I would have to fill in a few little spots. I actually think I could bump everything over just a little bit. But that is basically it. We're here to experiment and try new things, so let's do it.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I dream on to someday find that vintage love. I kept on looking, but everyone's such a bore.
This one is done. And I'm just trying to figure out, I need to let it dry at least a little bit before I try to cut off the ends. But what I probably am going to end up doing is taking the little nailer and nailing them all just to make sure they don't move or come off as I try to cut. And then I'll fill in the other little spots with those offcuts. It's not what I wanted to do, but I don't have a lot of time. Okay, I actually threw a nail, I think, in each one of them. So now I just have to decide if I want to hand cut them off or use the circular saw. It's moving. I should probably just use the circular saw. Be here forever.
All of a sudden, you came through the door. At the next table, you're whisking me. The lights were dimmed as our eyes met, and you saw me. And forevermore, I like to share that vintage dream.
So I just put like 2 screws in to hold it in. That's really the only thing that's holding it there. And then just those there for now to see what it's gonna look like. So I'll put the shelf up. I'll cut the shelf now and then see. I'm on the fence if I like it or not. But that's, I think the great thing about doing it this way is that I can just take it off if I don't like it. One of the annoying things is that I had left this like that because I was going to run these boards all the way along, and I was going to fill this part in like that so that it would be like seamless, if you can see that. That's why I left that out like that. But now I either have to take that off and cut it, or I'm trying to I just need to bring it down a little bit if the tiles is what I'm going to end up doing. Or actually, I really should have it all the way cut down, like up here. Something like this. Unfortunately, my wall boards are not level, but I have to cover that up somehow. I'm just wondering if this should not stick out so much. Like these shelves not stick out as much as they are. I have a cool feature though. I got these little lights that I'm gonna put under here, one on each side. But I do think the shelves need to be a little bit more narrow, which is unfortunate because I've already now cut this out to match that. I do have a little bit more of this wood. I'm ready to cut this last panel, put it up. I already kind of redid my 2 shelves, and yeah, I'm running out of time. I just want to get this done. Okay, hooray. Where's the level? I think this is level. my gosh, look at the sun coming up through there. I have like sun on my hair. Oh, how nice. How cool. I'm looking a little rough. Not gonna lie. It is 1:45 and I just did all my cleanup and I am about to head out. So that's it. I really do like it actually, and I'm glad that I went with the tiles because I have 3 boards left over, 2 really tall ones and 1 shorter one, and I kind of have a plan. So I'm obviously not done. I need to figure out a little bit of a trim for the window. I need to create a transition piece from the counter to the wall for especially behind the sink. So I kind of am brewing up some ideas about that. I think it's really good. I'm sore and I'm tired. I don't know what else to say. Let me show you some beauty shots.
Street.